Welcome back, students. It's been a while since I did one of these videos. So here's the central question. How can we graph functions of the form y equals all of that stuff? And how can we identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry in the same function? So go ahead and pause the video and write this down all the way on top of your page. Remember, Cornell notes are mandatory for everyone who does not have A in this class. And these exact same notes from the video are the exact same questions, the exact same notes that are on Schoology in the week notes. So the last few days we've been graphing quadratic functions in standard form using tables and the vertex and or axis of symmetry. Now we're going to go into the third way using a second equation called the vertex form. And for extra credit, just in case you were wondering, this is my favorite form of quadratic. So here's the characteristics. Here's vertex form, y equals a is x minus h squared plus k. Now if you notice, you still have that little squared right there, so it's going to be very, very similar to what we had before. Let me just write down what we had before up here. Y equals a x squared plus bx, plus c. So now back to this. What are some of the characteristics? Well, the vertex is h comma k. That's going to be very important. Make sure you box that, circle that, do whatever you want to do. And the axis of symmetry is x equals h. It comes from this part right here. Thirdly, very similar to like what we had before, it opens up if a equals 0 and it opens down if a is less than 0. So this is what we derived in class if you chose to copy down the notes from the traditional lesson. This right here is y equals ax squared. It's kind of like our parent function, that's what I call it. And h tells us how much you shift it over to the horizontally. So again, this is horizontal. That's not an A. This is the horizontal shift, and the k is the vertical shift. Writing all over the place. But the k tells us how much we go up. So it's going to get a little confusing. Just a heads up, we have the minus h there. So let's go through an example to show you what I mean. Okay, so here's our first example. Graph y equals negative 1/4 times x plus 2 squared plus 5. So let me write step 1. I always like giving you all steps just to show you what we're doing. I usually write down the actual equation. So y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Don't forget this one right here is a minus. Then you write down the other one right under it. Y equals negative 1/4 times x plus 2 squared plus 5. Now you can see what parameter, what letter, what variable goes to what. So if you put it right here, you know that a equals negative 1/4. We know that h, this is tricky. H equals negative 2. Let me scoot this over a little bit so I can show you why. Because remember, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And if I wrote y equals negative 1/4 of x minus negative 2 squared plus 5. Now you can see that it's minus h and minus negative 2. Because the minus and minus make a positive is how you get the equation over here. So just be mindful of that. Make sure that you know that it's supposed to be minus h, not plus h. And last one, k equals 5. So now we have our parameters. The cool thing about this form is that you actually already have the vertex in there. So step 2 is identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry actually. So the vertex, let me write this in a different color, h comma k, if you remember from the slide before, equals negative 2 comma 5. Negative 2 comma 5. That means our axis of symmetry, I'm just going to abbreviate it, axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. So we're done with about half of the work. Step 3. Plot the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So because I'm cheating a little bit, but I already know what the graph is going to look like, let me scoot this up. Don't forget to label your axis so I know what you're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just label the first one. -2, -3, -4, -5. So our point -2, 5 would be, let's do purple. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is -2, 5. And our axis of symmetry is this one. So this is the line where you can cut the parabola in half, and the one side to the left is the exact same thing as the side to the right. Now, part of step number 3 that I'm going to call it is finding 2 points. So to find our first point, I usually just pick one to the right of the x, so one to the right of -2, another one to the right of that. So I'm going to say point 1, let x equal 0. So you plot that into our original equation, which is this one up here. Let's go down a little bit. And you get y equals -1/4 h plus 2 squared plus 5, or -1/4 0 plus 2 squared plus 5. Y equals -1/4 times 2 squared plus 5. Keep simplifying it. What's 2 squared? 4. -1/4 times 4 is -1 plus 5. Then you get -4. So our point down here is 0, -4. The 0 comes from there, this one comes from there, and you get this point. So let's put that up there. 0, -4. Oops. Sorry. Ooh, who saw that mistake? It should be positive. Sorry about that. That one's perfect. We can make mistakes too. There you go. 0, 4. So you go to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That means that you have this distance right here, so you should have another one over here. Because again, it just reflects. Let's do point 2. For this one, I'm going to let x equal 2. So I'm going to write this all again. Y equals -1/4. 2 plus 2 squared plus 5. Now, if you follow the same process, I'll let you do this by yourself because I know you can all do this already. You get y equals 1. So your point is going to be 2, 1. The 1 comes from there. 2 comes from there. This time I didn't make any mistakes. Let's hope not. So x equals 2, 1, 2, 1. And again, you went over 1, 2, 3, up 1. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, up 1. And then you graph your parabola. That's step number 4. So that's pretty much all the work. Remember, step 1 was find the parameters a, h, and k. With that, you can find the vertex and the axis of symmetry and draw them right there. And step 3 is just find 2 other points. And then you know that it reflects exactly over the axis of symmetry, so you get 2 other points over there. So just to summarize everything, step 1 is identify the constants, a, b, and c. Actually, those are wrong. A, h, and k. Sorry, I messed up there. After that, plot the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Find 2 more points and draw that parabola. Now, if you want another example, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, you can start the classwork, and you should all be good.